Good afternoon, everybody. Today is the 27th of July. You're listening to the Drake Martinez podcast, and I'm your host. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about Kamala Harris, why she is a terrible candidate, and why she would make a terrible U.S. president. So, before we get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about our selection process and why do we keep, over decades, keep selecting really, really bad candidates for the American presidency. George Carlin had this really famous joke that, or at least it was famous when he said it and a little while afterwards. I don't know if it's still super popular, but it was the last stand-up special that he did before he died. And he had this really great joke that it wasn't actually his last stand-up special wasn't really like a comedy special. It was more of just like him ripping into the American system, the American political system. Like it happened like a few months before he died, that special, if I remember correctly. And in that special, he had a line about why do we keep getting crap politicians? And his answer was because of the public. The public is crap. You get crap in, you get crap out. And I know that's like an uncomfortable thing to hear, but it does. I remember thinking about it at the time, like that's really something an old person can say because, he's really old and he's about to die, and he did die like right after that. But that doesn't make it not true that we are to blame for the crap politicians that we get. And he said something to the effect of like the public is crap. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to think about, but I thought a lot about it, and there is a lot of truth to it. There's certainly an element of like we don't have like complete control over that, but we do have some. And I know that for like decades, the media had such a stranglehold on information. But think about it for a minute. Biden was visibly not able to put sentences together. You could see that with your own eyes. You could hear it with your own ears. You could see that he is and was not up to the task of running the country. And when did it become an issue? It became an issue after the debate. Why? Because the media attacked him. But it's important to understand which media attacked him. It wasn't Daily Wire that broke the camel's back, so to speak. It wasn't Breitbart. It wasn't Joe Rogan. It wasn't Tucker Carlson, Fox News. It wasn't until CNN, ABC, NBC started asking those questions and saying that he's not fit and providing those opinions that things actually started to change. And why is that? What sort of collusion and what sort of dominoes have to fall into effect in order for things to be taken seriously and changes in order for changes to be to occur? Well, it seems like the mainstream media has to say it. And although we, as a generation of, millennials, Gen Z, anybody that's after boomers, and really even like Gen X, some of Gen X, and even some boomers now, it's like, who's to blame for that? Why aren't things taken seriously until this certain class of people start talking about it? Is it because we give them that power? No, we don't. Actually, these last few decades, really, actually, this last one has been such a monumental change in how people access information, how people think, people's opinions, and complete distrust in the mainstream media. But yet they still have this enormous sway in everything. The country was shut down because of them during COVID. They didn't allow anybody to provide any kind of contrary opinions. as to the nature of the origins of the virus, whether or not the vaccines would be effective, whether or not it was a good idea to keep schools and businesses and the entire economy shut down. The mainstream media controlled that, and we allowed it. We sat by. I mean, people talked about it. People understood. Plenty of people understood like all these things were bad ideas, but it wasn't taken seriously. Why? Why is that? Is it because of what George Carlin said, that there's just a population of crap? Kind of. I remember going to grocery stores at the time and people like bought it hook, line, and sinker. I mean, I was like, I'm not allowed in here unless I wear a bandana over my face, the early parts. But people were like in total fear state over this thing. Just like in a total, like it was like fear porn, everything that was happening. And I'll never forget that period. And I think we should never forget that period. That we should collectively, people who listen to this podcast, you're already different in the sense that you have a memory. I guarantee I'm talking to you. You have a memory. You remember how things were. Some people don't. It's like, and you have to read 1984 with that whole like Eurasia. We've always been at war with Eurasia. This media landscape, like the media is designed to just keep you in their track. And if you can remember things, and if you can pay attention and form your own opinions about it, then you're outside of it and you can remember things. And I'm sure some of these other people do remember, they just pretend. They're just dishonest. But that's not you. I guarantee it's not you. Like the average person who's listening to this, that's not you. Or else you wouldn't be listening to this. You wouldn't find it like it resonating at all. So the population's crap. So we get crap presidents like George W. Bush, Al Gore, Barack Obama. We have crap presidential nominees from the other parties like John Kerry, Al Gore, John McCain, Kamala Harris. And Trump doesn't fit into that. I think he's not the best candidate. He's not the best nominee. I think that a person like Ron DeSantis or Rand Paul, Ron Paul's too old. Rand Paul would do a much better job at creating lasting and impactful changes to the country that would really change things for the better and for the long term. But that's not who's the front runner right now, and that's not who has the mantle. Trump has that mantle, and for good reason. He stood up. He stood up when other people were bowing. He stood up when other people would take the knee. But why Kamala Harris? Why would they pick her? I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff about like this, DEI pick and whatnot. Like Biden picked her because he needed a black woman. Like that was explicitly stated. He's like, I need a black woman after the George Floyd riots. But why is she elevated to that position? Why do we keep getting crap candidates? I keep going back to that George Carlin joke, is because the population is crap. There has been a steady decline in moral aptitude, general, how do I put it? Like general competence. The population has just become like generally incompetent. Don't really understand the reason why, but I've seen the effects everywhere. I see it at my job. I see it in public. I see it like when I talk to people in different industries and like in customer service avenues, that genuine competence is hard to come by. And I'm sure a lot of you have noticed that too. It wasn't like that not that long ago. So what's happening? What's changing? Certainly we're changing. Certainly our standards are changing. And certainly the public and the population is getting dumber. Just like an idiocracy. Pretty soon we'll have these systems that run the country, that run the world, and we don't understand them. How many electrical engineers are out there? How many? How many mechanical engineers? I mean, we're at such a dangerous point of just general incompetence and general corruption that everything, even in the name of science, is done for political purposes. There's hardly any legit science anymore. It all falls into this like Lysenkoism kind of thing, where, just like an idiocracy, scientists are focused on sustaining male erections and male pattern baldness. But in the real world, scientists are focused on keeping people to take whatever vaccine comes out, to believe in the climate change, as in its third or fourth iteration, and anything else that they can use science to perpetuate a anti-human agenda. Humans are bad. We're destroying the earth, Gaia worship. And why? Why is this happening? Why do we get crap candidates? I keep coming back to it. Why don't we have an Elon Musk running for president? Why don't we have why didn't Neil Armstrong ever run for president? Why didn't, and it's hard to think of like really qualified people anymore. I can come back to like Ron DeSantis and Rand Paul, because like they actually believe and vote and operate in a way that perpetuates and it operates in accordance with the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution. But those things are ideals that not many people have. They have a different agenda. It kind of reminds me of this time that I sat on jury duty, where this guy was like, I don't want to get into the details of this case, but like, it was he was clearly guilty. Clearly guilty. He blew, whatever the blood alcohol content level is, he blew well above that. And this was like hours after he crashed his vehicle. And I was like 19 at the time, and I sat on the jury, and we're in the jury deliberations, and people are just talking. They're just like, oh, this is my opinion. I think, the cops were stupid and this and that and the other thing. And, I'm 19. Everyone there was like in their 30s, 40s or older. And I just remember thinking to myself, like people are just rambling. Like they're just giving their opinions about nonsense. None of this is in the context of like what we're doing here. That is to say, there were charges, and we're there to determine if he is guilty or innocent of the charges. We're not even having a conversation in respect to those charges. So I said something to that effect. I said, like, what were the charges? We're just like getting completely off track here. So can we have these discussions in keeping in mind what the charges were? And then you could just see like the light bulb go off on them, like, oh yeah, we're just over here like, spinning around in circles without this context, right? And after that, we were able to come to a decision of like, yes, he was guilty of one of the charges, but innocent of the other. And that was a good compromise. But that's not what that is what politicians need, is that context. Otherwise, we just completely spin in circles. What is the context? The context is the law. The laws that we're supposed to uphold. The Constitution that we're supposed to protect and preserve. The way of life and the culture that we have been bestowed. And people, just as evident in the flag burning that happened, I believe it was yesterday, people just want to upend that without a good, viable system to replace it, other than just anarchy and chaos. How did we come to this? How did we come to this era? And how do we keep getting these crap politicians like Kamala Harris? And I don't want to pick on her personally, but you could just replace her. You could just replace her with any one of those Democrats. You're going to get the same policies. And a lot of people will equate that to a cabal, a deep state. The deep state is certainly a thing of like these entrenched bureaucrats, but why are they all so ideologically uniform? Why is there such an orthodoxy? Maybe it has to do with the public being crap. You might be an exception. I might be an exception. I'd like to think I am, and I'd like to think that you are. I think I'd like to. I would lean towards yes. And so how do we do better? I was thinking a lot about this during the 2016 presidential election. To be honest, I was fond of Trump. Like I thought like, okay, well, he's doing a pretty good job like bashing these politicians, but my boy Rand Paul's up there and he's my number one pick. For sure. Even today he would still be my number one pick. But he bashed Rand Paul and I didn't take it personally. I was like, whatever, it's just politics. It's just the name of the game. Like you have to get elected. This is how you get elected, is in these debates. And then I started thinking about it, like what purpose do these debates actually hold? You ever think about that? Like what purpose do the debates actually have? Okay, they can just say anything up there. They really can. They can just say anything. The media allows this landscape of just being able to say anything. It's just like an ebb and flow and like bobbing and weaving through the navigating through the minefield of political opinions being hurled one way and the other, like dodgeball. Nothing is grounded. Nothing is certain. Why? Why is it like that? Because they benefit from that. They benefit from the constant media cycle of like tuning in today. It's like an episode of, The Walking Dead or your favorite sitcom or your favorite drama. Every day you have to tune in to see what's the next iteration, the next episode of this drama that's being unfolded. So I remember I was talking to this guy. He saw that I had an InfoWars bumper sticker, and he was like, I thought that you were a really smart guy, and like a lot of stuff, and like he's a guy I used to work with. He was like, and then I saw this InfoWars sticker on your bumper of your car, and I just like lost all this respect that I had for your intellect. And I was like, okay, well, thanks for being honest, but have you ever listened to InfoWars? And he was like, no, I don't need to. That guy is a crazy nut job. Now, like he's certainly crazy, but he's not a nut job. Like Alex Jones actually has a lot of really important, amazing things to say. He gets some things wrong, just like anybody else, but he's his own person that's doing his own thing. Okay, well, whatever. And we started talking, and then he's like, but are you really a fan of Trump? Mind you, this is 2016. And I was like, yeah, I'm a fan of Trump. I was like, to be honest, Rand Paul is my number one choice, but Trump's a good guy. Trump's a good solid pick, because this is what I'm coming at is full circle, is just as George Carlin said, the country's not ready for a Rand Paul. The country is ready for a Donald Trump. And that's not to say that like I'm smarter or more, like further down the line or further down the road. That's not saying that at all. It's just an observation of like where the country is at. And the media landscape, I told him the media landscape enabled Donald Trump to win. So if you have anybody to be upset about for Donald Trump being the candidate that is most likely going to be the next president, because Hillary Clinton is just, they already rigged the election for her with the superdelegates on the Democratic side, then you have to blame the media. Because why do we even do debates? He's like, well, that's how they clash out their ideas. No, they don't. They just get sound bites in. They're just up there for 30 seconds at a time saying something, saying anything. It's no it's no actual representation of their policy, of their prospective policies, things that they plan to do, things that people that they plan to bring into the fold. And I was like, maybe the better way to do presidential nominations and presidential debates would be more like a forum. And you have to tune in, and one week they do the economy, the next week they do the military, the following week they do the Department of Justice. And they have experts from that field up there, not Brett Baer, not Megyn Kelly, not Lester Holt, or Dana Bash, or any of these other people, Chris Cuomo, none of these people. Actual experts, economists, military leaders, public policy leaders from different administrations, and gather them all up together. And instead of a debate, they do a forum where they openly and honestly, without interruption, get to talk about their policy. And experts in that field get to ask them follow-up questions. And then the public can look at that and decide, I like this person's plan. This person's plan is very flushed out. Or I don't like that plan. Actually, that doesn't sound good. But it's not done like that. It's done with theater. It's done with drama, because they want you to tune in. And his response was, I never heard about that before. I never thought of that. That's actually a really good idea. The only problem that I can see with that is people would tune out. It would be too boring. And my response to him was, those people shouldn't be voting anyways. They shouldn't. If you don't have enough of an attention span to sit through a few hours of deciding who's going to be the next leader of the free world, and really evaluate their policies without the spin, without the commentators, without the filter, without the propaganda in your face, then we as the public, we as a populace, get the leaders that we deserve. And until we start demanding better from the process, in terms of like how we find out about who these people are, until we start talking to each other in a way that allows these conversations to change the way people think about our politicians. Our politicians are not entertainers. They're not comedians, or they might have different entertaining or comedic aspects to them, but that's not their primary function. Their primary function is not to bring you into the drama. Their primary function is to run that office in which they are running, and then eventually hold. But there's so much money, there's so much power in the wealthiest country in the world, and there's so much at stake. So of course these things would get obfuscated, but the public gets what the public deserves. And perhaps this is what we deserve. We have to ask for better. We have to change our mentality about not viewing these people as entertainers, and viewing them as, I like to think about it sometimes as the example of like companies that I really like. I really like Black Rifle Coffee Company. I really like the company Shinesty. They have really great boxers for men. And I really like Fender guitars. Some of the best guitars. I really like Black Star amps. I really like Shure microphones. It's a great company. Make fantastic microphones. I don't know. I couldn't name you who any of those companies' CEOs are. I don't care. I care about the product. I care about like what they do, not who runs it. And I know that might sound like contradicting to what I just said about like caring about who's running the country, but it's not. It's a little further down the line. That once we have a system in place, and then we advocate for that system, we push for that system where the policies are flushed out, not the personalities, then we might get to a point where you can view the person as like the CEO. Okay, well, these policies, these things happened during their presidency, didn't like it, and now we're going to vote for somebody else. Like you can judge them by the fruit of the tree that they produce, as opposed to the color, the shape, the way that the pictures were taken of the tree. We're a long way from that. We are a really long way from that. But I think that's the only way that we can go, is just to stop viewing our politicians as celebrities. I mean, Donald Trump is obviously an anomaly because he was a celebrity way before he was ever the president. But that wasn't the case for Obama. That wasn't the case for Bill Clinton. These politicians attained a certain status of celebrity because we allowed that, and we viewed them as celebrities. Our media viewed them as celebrities. It's a very difficult thing to change, and I'm not exactly espousing and like laying out the way that it has to change, other than maybe just being cognizant of what does need to change and talking about it. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and let's and for that purpose of creating a network of people that think differently, have different ideas, that break the mold and think outside the box, so to speak, and maybe you have a pathway forward for that. Maybe collectively we all do, and that is what's needed. To be honest, I'm not really sure, but I know something's got to change in that direction. See you guys next time. Have a great weekend.